All right, here we go, people. I'm going to make you right now a little bit longer of a video to go through all the features of Gravit Designer. We're going to go through a lot. We're going to make a file. We'll go through the panels, the tools, the layers, the pages, the keyboard shortcuts, saving, everything basically to get you started creating in Gravit Designer. So I'm going to do this all in my browser, but you can download and use the desktop version if you have a desktop computer. So you basically need to get to Gravit Designer. You just type in Gravit, Google Gravit, and this will pop up. This is the home page. You hit start now. This little screen right here, the loading screen, might take a little bit longer on a Chromebook. Just be patient, it does load, and once it does, it works pretty well. So this is where you choose if you're opening from the cloud or if you are opening from your computer or just creating a new design. So I'm just going to show you creating a new design. Right now, we're going to stick for this class in print, and we're going to stick to US letter, US landscape. So you just click this little caret right here, and then it has a drop-down menu of all the different sizes that you can create your composition. Again, just for our purposes in this class, we are going to stick to US letter portrait or US letter landscape. So you click it, it pops up, and this square is your composition. You can, make things outside the composition and then move them in, but everything that's within the composition of your page is what's going to get saved if you export it. So I'm just going to open a different file that I already started for everybody. So let's go to Open from Cloud. It's this one. I'm going to open it. All right, so I'm going to go through basically everything real quick. Up at the top, you have your drop-down menus. File is for creating new designs, opening from the cloud, from a local file, opening recent, importing, exporting, all that stuff is right in File. Edit is your basic commands, undo, redo, cut, copy, paste. There's also settings down here. I'm going to get into settings for a second. So if you just go File, Settings, there's two different themes. I like the dark theme, but if you're wondering why mine's dark and yours is light, it's just this theme in the settings. Yours might have, when you first opened it, been this light theme. I kind of like the dark theme better just so I can concentrate more on the design and less on what's around it, all the tools. So again, it's Edit, Settings, and then change the theme of Gravit Designer to the dark theme, and hit Save Changes. We'll go back up here, go to Modify. All the things in here are really throughout the program and more easily accessible in other places, but they are still here. In Modify, you can arrange, align, transform, create your compound shapes. Some of these paths options are a little bit more advanced, but I usually don't go there. There's other places to get to them. There's the view. You can zoom in. There's the canvas. You can show the rulers, the grid. There's all these different options in here. There's your snapping. Again, like a lot of this stuff is easily found, more easily found in the tools, the next toolbar. So let's start with the next toolbar. I'm just going to go right across here in a row. Here's the Save button. Here's the Undo button. Let's go back to Save. You just hit that Save button. It's saving to the Gravit cloud. It is saving as a Gravit file. If you need to export it or save it as something else, you go File and then Save or File Export. I'll get to that in a moment. So Undo, Redo, there's the Zoom tool. There's the Fit to Screen tool. So if you're like zoomed in all the way and then you want to get back to your screen, it's just Fit to All, and it'll go back to fit the whole composition within your screen. And you have the Hand tool, which you can move around your composition by clicking and dragging. And there's also the Zoom tools hidden underneath there. If you just hit the caret, you can zoom in. This next one is snapping. You can see that I have snapping on because it's like highlighted. If you want snapping off, you just click it once. Now it's off, and now it's on. And then this little caret has all of your snapping options. Snapping is basically your smart guides. So let's just try to show it to you real quick. If I have a rectangle here and another rectangle here, so my snapping is on right now, and if I'm moving around this rectangle, you see all the smart guides come up, like there's one, and then the middle one, and then it kind of like clicks to other shapes, just like that. So that's what snapping does, and if snapping's off, you don't have the smart guides, and it does not snapping exactly to a shape. So if you want to be a little bit more precise with, arranging your shapes, you just click that snapping on, and then it'll give you those smart guides and the ability to click the shapes right next to each other. You can change all these options. They're in here. If you just hit the caret, there's also a show grid, and you can get the grid up, so you can make a little bit more precise shapes and actions. I'm just going to turn it off for a second and keep going. That's snapping. Just remember, you can turn it on and then you can turn it off. So I'm just going to keep mine on because I like it normally, but sometimes there are reasons to take it off. So this is where it starts to get really important. This is the selection tool, but there are two different selection tools. If you hit this caret, drops down, there's the pointer tool and then the sub selector tool, and then I go back and forth between these constantly. It's a really great idea just to memorize that V is your pointer tool, your main selection tool, but if you need a sub selector, it's D, and I just hit those constantly going back and forth. So the pointer tool is moving around like a shape, right? Whereas the sub selector is going to give you some more options for the shapes and specific points. Like if you had a path, oops, I guess we make that have a border. There we go. So differences between the selection tools. The pointer is, if you hit the pointer is going to move around an entire path or line or an entire shape, whereas the sub selector right here is going to let you edit individual anchor points. So again, super useful. You need to be comfortable using both of these selection tools. The pointer tool or the normal selection tool is V on the keyboard. So you hit V and then you can move entire shapes, entire paths around. If you want to edit them, you can hit the sub selector and that'll let you edit specific anchor points. All right, so let's keep going. We have the shape tools right here. So you hit the little carets and you can make a line, a rectangle, an ellipse. You can make a polygon. That's wonderful. And the star is pretty cool. So you basically like make a shape, you can move it around, and then you can edit that shape over here in the appearance panel and the fills and the borders effects. So you have it selected. Let's move it over here for a second. All right, so we got this star. You can add points to stars. You can adjust the size of the points. You can adjust the corners. All this is pretty similar for others too. If you have a circle, you can change all the appearance options right over here. If you have, a polygon, you can change the amount of points. You can change the corner. You can change the opacity, you can give it a different fill just by clicking the color, and you can also give it a border, however you want. No, I'm not giving a border to that one, I'm giving a border to a different one. So let's give a border to this one. So again, you make a shape with the shape tool, and then you can edit it with the appearance, the fills, the border, it's all over here. So let's just keep going a little bit, back to my star, and I'm going to hit the sub selector, and you can drag out your points and kind of edit them a little bit with the sub selector, whereas the pointer tool again is just going to change the size of the shape. If you are trying to constrain the proportions and keep the proportion of width and height the same, you need to hold down the shift key, and then the height and the width will scale proportionally. If you don't, you just don't click anything. But if you are trying to preserve the height and the width, hit shift, hold shift when you're scaling, when you're clicking and dragging from the anchor points. All right, so we did shape. Let's move on to the path and pen tool. This is a freehand tool, and that's basically you're just drawing, and then it'll automatically put in these different anchor points for you. And if you want to, you can hit that sub-selector and kind of move them around. So let's just go back and delete that for a second, and then go to the, where are we? Pen tool. So the pen tool, you are clicking and adding an anchor point, and then when you click, you can click another one, and then another one. You can make shapes like this. The other thing that you can do with the pen tool is make pretty accurate curves. You like click, and when you click your second one, drag, you have the second set of handles or anchor points. Actually, they're not anchor points, they're handles. So you can kind of drag out those handles and make pretty precise curves, like if you're trying to trace something or create kind of organic shape. And then if you want to, close it off and finish the shape, you just have to click on the anchor point where you started. That's the pen tool. We're going to do a lot with the pen tool a little bit later on this semester. The Bezigon tool is kind of similar to the pen tool, but honestly, I am not really sure how it works. So we'll skip that from there. Oh no, it's Option. So that's how you get it. You hold down Option on the keyboard, or it might be Alt on a Chromebook. And again, it's pretty similar to the pen tool, but it curves and reacts a little bit differently. This is something I'm not used to. It's not an Illustrator. So regardless, that's what it is. But for your purposes, just getting started, you try out the pen tool, try out the freehand tool. They're both really useful tools. You use them a lot. So let's just clean this up a little bit. Hit V and nope. Start deleting this stuff. All right. Oop. Back to this. All right, so we can zoom out. I have a shape right here, and for the next set of tools, it's the knife tool. I would even just I'm just gonna skip the freehand shaping tool. The knife tool is going to basically cut off parts of a shape. So you need something selected. So I'm going to select this rectangle right here, this red guy, and then hit the knife tool, and then you can just click and drag across it, and it makes that line, and you then need to go get the pointer tool and click away from the shape, and then click back to drag it out. I think that works. There we go. So that's how you would cut a shape in half, or make different shapes out of full shapes or fractions of a shape. You can cut it as many times as you want. I think you can do points. Maybe no, you can't. You gotta drag it. So anyways, that's the knife tool. I'm just gonna keep going to, there's a text tool. We're gonna skip over this stuff. The image tool, you can import an image. I don't recommend it right now. It'll probably slow down your Chromebooks quite a bit. So back to this. Let's just get this guy to, I was trying to cut him. Nope. All right, let's cut them again then. With the knife tool. Oh yeah, you have to select it, don't you? So that's my shape, and now I'm going to cut it with the knife. And then I'm going to drag it away. Okay, so I just cut that. And so I did that just to show you that these are the flip horizontal, the flip vertical, and the rotate tools right here. Self-explanatory. You can flip, you can rotate right there. This one, group, is if you are trying to group a few shapes. So you can just drag out a selection of a few shapes and then just hit group, and then it shows up in layers that's as a group. And then when you go and you click it, it's actually dragging or selecting all of those shapes. So if you wanted to like add a fill to or an effect to you know, a group, you can select all of them and then edit them or move them around. So there's a group, and then there's also ungroup if you want to ungroup for a specific reason. Let's keep going. You have a clip option, which will allow you to clip shapes within each other. So if you just hit clip, now my circle and my rectangle are clipped together. It's a pretty bad example right there. But regardless, I'm going to have to go over that in another tutorial and show you. I'm trying to get through all these. But you have clipping, you have send backwards, send forward. That has everything to do with the layers palette and the order, the stacking order of your elements. So what else? There's send backwards, send forwards, there's create symbol. There's convert to path if you need to create a path around a shape. That's that option. Vectorized border, that's similar, but I'm going to go over that. And then there's advanced export. So basic tools that you need to know, be able to use are like the hand tool, the snapping, the pointer tools, the shape tools, that pen tool, the knife tool, and maybe the text tool, and you know, the rotate and flip tools. So I went over this panel a little bit. This changes depending on what shape you are selected on. Like if you're just doing a path, it might look a little bit different than if you are working with a specific shape. So again, you have all of like your appearance panels. You can change the corners, you can change the opacity, the blending, the fills are right here. If you are adding a fill, you can hit this little star button, and then if you're deleting it, same thing with like borders. If you have, you know, a border and it's like this ugly color that you don't like, you can delete it, but it needs to be selected over here. So I can go and just delete this fill right here. You have to make sure that it's selected and then delete it or remove it. So if it's not selected, like, it won't delete. So I think you might even need two. Can you delete that fill? Oh yeah, you can delete that fill. So anyways, you need to know that this needs to be selected in order to be able to delete it. Again, if you hit fill, and then you can click the color picker to pick a color, or you can pick a color by clicking on that circle and moving it around. There's also, you know, your other options up here are linear gradient and radial gradient. You have all your gradients right here. So if you hit gradient, then you know, you can move around the gradient line right here on the composition or on the shape, and then you can edit the colors by clicking on the color and then changing the color. Now I have a purple red gradient. Wonderful. So anyways, that is the fill, and then, you know, borders are borders. You can, pretty sure you can add multiple borders. Let's see if that works. Let's zoom in a second. Oh, you might need to, oh, yeah. So you can add multiple borders. Like I just added a black border and a salmon pink border. Let's add another one just to see what happens. Let's do a blue one. You just have to create the border, and then you can change the point size. So let me change the point size to 4 on that one and 8 on that one. There we go. So that's kind of a neat thing that you can add multiple borders and even multiple fills on individual shapes. There's effects down here. I normally don't mess with them. I'll go over them at some point. So just so you know that these are all the different options for your elements as you select them. They do change over here. So you need to grab the pointer tool or the selection tool, select the shape or the element that you want to work with, and then you can change the fill or add a border, change the border, or add a gradient if you'd like to. So again, that's that stuff over here. It changes. This stuff's really important over here. These two panels are the layers and the pages. So layers just are pretty similar to layers in like Pixlr or Photoshop. They all come up right here. Like every time you make a shape, it's on a new layer, and you can click that layer and then drag it down, reposition it. Now my star is behind that big red rectangle that I started with. You know, you can click the shape on the composition, and then it'll highlight in the layers panel, and then you can move it around if you want it hidden underneath. Oop, there it is. And you can also lock it. So if I am trying to not select a layer, but select these other ones, it's very helpful to lock it, and that way I can't move it. It won't select. And that gives you the opportunity to select the smaller shapes, or the work with the shapes that you really are trying to position. So don't forget that you can lock a shape if you want it to stay still. If you know that it's going to be there in that same position, you just hit lock over here in the lock panel. So I'm gonna like unlock it so I can move it around, and then relock it so I can't move it around, which is wonderful. You can also toggle the visibility. So if you want to hide it for a second and you know, work on something else and then put it back on, that's perfect. The other thing that I think we went over, but if you select multiple shapes like this, you can group them. It does Command G work? Yes, it does. So that's a great keyboard shortcut. Command G is for grouping, and now I have a group of elements. And if you want to toggle the visibility or lock the group, you can do that right here. Or if you want to get to individual parts of the group, you just hit this little caret right here, and you can get to the specific layer that you want to edit or move around. So that's the layers panel. Oh, you can make a new group or a new layer right here. Yeah, so that might be helpful if you are trying to like combine things. Like here, can I hold down Shift, select all of those elements, and then put them in a layer. So if you're working with like a complex illustration, you can maybe make a layer and for, you know, the text, and then you can make a layer for the head, and you can make a layer for the, you know, body, just so you can kind of keep organized your different elements. This will get like very cluttered if you don't organize your elements, because every single shape, every line that you make is going to come up here as a different layer. So I do encourage you to master using and organizing this layers palette, either with groups or by creating new layer groups. And hopefully that can help you organize the elements that you're working with. So that's layers. The other thing I wanted to show you is pages. You can add multiple pages to this. So I'm just going to zoom out. Like this is what I was working on, but I did also make a page 1 to show you, and you can make another page right here, create new page. Now it's in the same document, but it's like a different page in that document. So a lot of times, like what I'll do is I will kind of make my back page just like my scratch, where I am kind of moving around different shapes and seeing how they might interact with each other, and kind of playing around with the shapes on my back page. But then actually, once I get the shapes that I like, copy them and then paste them onto my front page. So that's layers. There's also one of the great things about Gravit is they have libraries. They have, you know, shapes. You can just hit shapes and pull out whatever shapes that you like from their library, which is wonderful. There's also illustrations, there's icons, and what else do they have? Go all the way down. Oh, they have stickers, emojis, you can put frames. It's kind of fun, but kitschy. One thing I really like is Unsplash is right here. So you can hit the Unsplash, and these are all stock photos. You can search textures, and then boom, you can actually put in an image right from Gravit without having to go on the internet, download something, and then import it. Let's see if this works. Does it work? Nope. This one's... Oh, there it is. So it might take a little bit to load. Might be a little bit bigger than your canvas size. You just have to like resize it. So just give you some options of what you can do. You can import photos and then like lock the layer and then trace it if you'd like to. Another thing that's kind of cool is symbols. You can create a symbol. Can I just create a symbol by dragging it? No, I can't. So let's see if I click all those and then how do you create a symbol? Symbol, create symbol. Symbol number 1, great. And now I have a symbol created, and I can go to maybe my last page, symbols, and then just drag out that symbol. So that helps if you are making something that you're repeating a lot. So those are symbols, libraries, layers, and pages. Very important. So that's pretty much all of the basic features. I'm just going to quickly go over basic keyboard shortcuts that everybody needs to know, just to like navigate yourself around your compositions. This one I use all the time. Whenever you want that hand tool, whenever you're trying, if you're zoomed in on something and you want to like move around, just press the spacebar tool, click and drag instead of going all the way up here and clicking that, and then you have to like click something else. Just hit the spacebar tool. Spacebar is the hand tool. Super useful. Moving on, in conjunction with the spacebar and the hand tool, you can zoom in just by hitting Control on your Chromebooks, or on a Mac, it would be spacebar and Command. So I'm just holding down spacebar and Command and then clicking. You see the little magnifying glass icon comes up, and I can zoom in and keep zooming in and keep zooming in until spacebar and Control on your Chromebooks. Oops. The other one is zoom out. That's a spacebar and Control plus Alt on Chromebooks, and that'll get you the zoom out magnifying glass. Or if you are on like a Mac or a different computer, it's spacebar, Command, Option, and just hold down all 3 of those, and then you can click to zoom out. And one of the other kind of fun things to do with the zoom is if you are like zooming in, spacebar, Command, and then you get the magnifying glass, and if you want to zoom in like on this Z, you can click and drag, and then it'll zoom in to the area that you selected. So again, it's spacebar, Command, and then drag out what you want zoomed into. All right, so those are super useful just for getting around your composition and getting closer to the elements that you're really working on. These other ones are basically like the mothers of all keyboard shortcuts. Everybody in the whole world needs to know that Command C is copy, Command V is paste, and Command X is cut. So if I wanted to cut something, I'll just go Command X. It disappears until I go Command V and I paste it back in. If you want to copy something, it's Command C and then Command V. But in Gravit, it likes to put the copy right on top of the original. So you actually have to like click and drag it out to get to the copy right here. The like mother of all mothers is Command Z. If you mess up, it's always Command Z. Command Z is undo. So everybody should know those. Those should be old news. The other ones I put on here are the sub selector and the pointer tool. Again, I went over those, but I am constantly going to those 2 keyboard shortcuts the most. So just memorize them or write them down. I have sticky notes all over my computer with different keyboard shortcuts for different programs. But a lot of these are universal. So just get used to them. The spacebar command or spacebar control thing is such a relief because Pixlr didn't have that, and I've used that same keyboard shortcut, these keyboard shortcuts in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign for years and years and years. And then when you get to Pixlr, it's really frustrating that you can't just zoom in like that with that keyboard shortcut. So that's my tutorial of the whole Gravit thing for now. Of course, we're going to get into more advanced things, but that should get you started just navigating the program and making a couple things. I'm going to be back in just a few seconds to go over saving things with you. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to make a little illustration for us on my page 3, and then I'll go over our options for saving and exporting. So alright, so I'm back. I made a quick illustration on my page 3, and I'm just going to show you and run through how to save your files. So normally you work on something, you like move something around, and you're working, you just hit the save button right here, or go File, Save. That is saving to the cloud, saving a Gravit file format to the Gravit cloud. That's great because then you can get to a different computer and just log on to Gravit, and you can get to that file right from the Gravit cloud. But you're gonna have to submit to me for authentic assessments that Gravit file. Every 2 weeks there'll be an authentic assessment grade. So in that case, you're going to need to download the final Gravit file. So in that case, you go File, and then down here to Download File, and that is downloading the Gravit extension file, the Gravit format file that can only be opened in Gravit. So then, something like this comes up, you save it, you name it first name, last name, like and you can see right here, it's the Gravit file format. It goes to your Downloads folder, or, you put it in your Assignments folder. You hit Save, and that saves again the Gravit file format. So I'm only going to collect those every 2 weeks for a final assignment or a final project. That's when you would have to download and submit by uploading this Gravit design file. But every other day where we have a classwork grade, or one step of the project, you are going to need to submit a file, an image that I can see quickly. So you're going to have to export these as JPEG. So whatever you're working on for an assignment, like a 2-day assignment, to submit that on our day 2s, our due days, you go File, and then Export. Export Advanced. This is how you're going to make a JPEG. So you're going to hit Canvas. You're going to make sure the file format is JPEG. You know what a PNG file is. SVG is another vector file format. That's kind of standard if you're like importing from Illustrator or something else. And you know what a PDF is. But just so it's quick, easy, and painless for you to submit and me to see in Google Classroom, hit JPEG. Hit the size, it's just 1, max out the quality, and you can use whatever page color, that's fine. The issue with this is the pages. If you're exporting these and you have all the pages clicked, it's going to export as a zip file, and I can't open that, I can't see it in Google Classroom, so you need to just export one. If you're doing more than one, you need to do this one at a time. So unclick Export All, and just click your main image, the image that you're working on, that page. Again, if you click 2, it's going to export as a zip file, and if you upload that zip file to Google Classroom, I can't do anything with it. I can't see it or view it, so I won't grade it, I won't count it, I won't be able to. So make sure that you only have one of your pages selected, and then hit Export. It'll export to your Downloads folder, and you have a lovely JPEG that you can name. You can move the file into your Assignments folder, and then to Google Classroom, like I said, every other day for classwork grade. So we're going to do that. For most assignments, you're just going to need to submit like one JPEG like this, just to show me what you're working on. and your progress. But at the end of 2 weeks, whenever we have like a final assessment, like an authentic assessment, you're going to need to download and upload for me in that Google Classroom assignment a JPEG file and then the Gravit file. So you need to know how to, again, go file, where is it? File, download file to download the Gravit file. Again, that's every 2 weeks, and export as a JPEG, just like this, but make sure that you're only exporting one of your pages and not multiple pages. So you're gonna have to do this pretty much every other day for day 2 due days assignments in Google Classroom. Remember, on day 1s, all you really need to do is read the assignment, start the assignment, and click Turn In to acknowledge that you have seen the assignment and that you are participating. And then on the second day of the assignment, the due day, you would need to, make a JPEG and export that JPEG and upload that JPEG to Google Classroom for your classwork grade. Hope this helps. Hope it wasn't too confusing. If you do have questions, message me on Remind or Google Classroom. I am here to help you. If you need me to, I can make longer screencasts. I know this one was pretty long. Normal ones are just 5 minutes, but I felt that there was so much to go over with the introduction to all these tools, all of the appearance, the fills, the layers, all of that, plus the saving. So I ended up making a longer video today. Again, hope this helps. Hope you're all doing well, and I'm excited to see what you can do with Gravit.